everyone. I'm sorry I joined a little bit closer to the time than I intended, but I'm so glad you could be here today for our Petapalooza. And we have a special guest that's going to present to us. It's only the second time we've had a volunteer present, so it's very exciting. I don't know if everybody's been to Connection Corner before, but this was an opportunity that started a few years ago in direct relation to a request from volunteers to have a chance to share and interact with each other. So that's what we've been doing. So if you could go to the next slide, Jody. Some of the values that Department of Family Services always keeps in mind to guide the work is being people-focused, being equitable, accountable, keeping in mind partnerships, and innovation. And so Connection Corner probably embodies at least 3 of these values, and people seem to really enjoy the interaction with one another. Next slide. Some group norms just to keep in mind. I don't think it'll be a problem with this group, but if we have our pets joining us, there may be some background noise. Just mute when you're not talking. Turn your cameras on when speaking if you feel comfortable. Some people like to have their cameras on. Some people aren't able to do that, and it's fine. However you want to join, we're happy to have you. Respect confidentiality, and if you have ideas for future Connection Corners, please let us know. Okay, next slide. So I'm going to just do a brief introduction of Laura. You guys have gotten to chat with her a little bit. You see how wonderful she is. She's been a volunteer with us for the last 2 years. She started in September of 2022. She's a veterinary pathologist, and she's been doing that challenging work for almost 25 years now. And she's the proud pet parent to Ami and Asiya. Hopefully I'm saying the newest addition's name correctly. But we're very glad to have you, Laura, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Christy. I appreciate that introduction, and I'm so glad to have this opportunity to share with you all. And yeah, I think pets are just so near and dear to our hearts, and to have this opportunity to come together to share some of our pets and some of our experiences, I think is just is a beautiful thing. So I'm just really glad to be part of this. So yeah, what my talk is going to be brief today, but I just did want to touch on just a few things. I just wanted to talk a little bit about pet ownership in the U.S. and a little bit about the evolution and the history of the human-animal bond, and then touch on some of the ways in which pets enhance the well-being, our well-being, and also touch a little bit on some considerations that can be made if you're considering adopting a pet, or if you know someone who's considering that, or if perhaps your client might be thinking about it. And this is especially kind of pertinent for me because I recently adopted 2 pets, and relatively recently, and it was quite an experience, and different in both cases. So I just wanted to share a little bit about that. So yeah, just briefly to touch on our bond with our pets here, specifically in America. According to this 2017-2018 National Pet Owners Survey that was conducted by the American Pet Products Association, about 68% of U.S. households actually own a pet. I just looked up the more current survey, and it's around the same, a little bit percentage-wise is a little bit less, but actually they're estimating about probably 86 million homes. There are about 86 million homes in the U.S. with pets, and dogs and cats are the most popular choices. But we've also got other pets. We've got horses and birds and fish and reptiles and snakes. So we've got some beautiful pets. Next slide. So according to this same association, Americans spend a lot of money on their pets, right? So last year, we spent about $147 billion on pets. And that was actually an increase, a 7.4% increase from previous years. And you see, even with inflation and the cost of living and everything else that's increasing, we're still, as pet owners, we're spending more and more on our pets. And they kind of broke it down into 4 categories. The bulk of the expenses on pet food and treats. And, you know, I can say with those treats, I don't know if you all have experienced that, but the price for those treats has really gone up over the years. I think back to years ago when I had my pet and how things were relatively inexpensive. But you know, there's quite a bit of expense tied up with the food and the treats. Other supplies or medications account for about $34 billion, vet care and sales, about 38.3 billion, and then other services would be about 12.3 billion. So next slide. So this bond that we have with our animals, it stems way back. They think that it evolved about 15,000 years ago. And it began as a working relationship, right? So the animals provided protection and service for their owners. They were responsible for hunting and farming and performing other tasks that were really necessary for day-to-day life. Back then, our dogs would herd and they would track. The cats, which were usually outdoors, would hunt and kill rodents. And that was actually very important also for helping to control the spread of disease and damage to food and to other things. And so they served a real important purpose for man years ago. And they were also very important during wartime. The U.S. Army Medical Department Journal discusses how important these animals were for service and the very important historical military roles that they served. And they not only provided protection, but they also provided stress relief, right? And a sense of pride for the human counterparts. And so we can kind of see how, you know, the purpose that that they served in performing all these tasks, that was there, which they also do for us to this day. But they also, even they recognized years ago that this stress relief was also provided by our pets. So it's a wonderful story. If you have an opportunity to research the human-animal bond, I'm only touching on a little bit here, but there's wonderful resources out there. This is actually from a resource that I have listed in the references from Michigan State University. I attended vet school at Michigan State University, and they have a newsletter called Perspective, I believe, and they talk extensively about the human-animal bond, and it's a beautiful story. So if you have an opportunity to learn more about that, I would definitely encourage you to do so. Next slide. Yeah, so let's just get into that, talk about some of the ways in which pets enhance our well-being. I think it's kind of easy to kind of overlook the human-animal bond as a one-way street, right? So the pets, they need their owners in order to meet those basic needs of food and water and shelter and welfare. But we as humans, we gain a different kind of well-being from being with our companion animals. And there's tons of research out there that demonstrates the enhancement of our well-being in many different ways by being with our pets. Research has shown, these are just a few things, but research has shown that pets can help lower our blood pressure. They can help reduce stress. They can allow for blood oxytocin levels to raise, that feel-good hormone that will raise when we're with our pets. And in some cases, they actually believe that just being in the presence of that pet can actually reduce the sensation of pain. And Bayer has shown that people living with dogs are actually 15% less likely to die from heart disease. So incredible attributes that are provided by our companionship with pets. Next slide. Some of the benefits for our vulnerable population, so the elderly as well as children, they have studies that have shown that elderly folks do respond well to companion animals, right? So diseases like depression or heart disease, dementia, they can often be exacerbated by loneliness, right? So by interacting with our companion animals, elderly people can experience more positive mental and physical effects. That presence of that companion decreases the loneliness. It increases a feeling of social support, even if it's not another person, another human. It's a social that animal provides that social support for that individual, and the mood can be boosted, right? Again, the oxytocin levels begin to rise, and that just naturally boosts the individual's mood. And they've seen similar results in children, especially during developmental stages, right? And they can see that the companionship of these pets enhances emotional, cognitive, social, and behavioral development. So there's a lot of research out there to basically confirm what I think a lot of us already kind of knew in our hearts was actually happening. Next slide. I just wanted to touch on a little bit of some considerations to be made if you are considering adopting a new pet, or if you know someone who is, or maybe the client that you're serving may be thinking about, is that something I should think about? We definitely want to do our homework, right? We want to try and figure out what kind, if we're thinking about a pet, which would be the best pet for me. And would I like more of a sedentary pet, maybe a kitty cat that's kind of low maintenance? Or do I like being outdoors and more active? Maybe I want to get a dog so I can get out there and outside in nature and exercise. Really think and brainstorm on what you envision with that pet. And do you have enough time to really devote reasonably thinking, like, do you have enough time to devote to the daily needs of the pet? Feeding and walking, again, with the dogs being able to walk the dog twice or 2 or 3 times a day. Do you have the time to actually invest in that? And you have to really think about these questions, and also think long term, right? Because our pets, we're hoping, are going to be around for a while, maybe 15, 20 years. And so we have to really think long term when we're considering this. Allergies are important to think about too. Is anyone in the house allergic to pets? We do have our hypoallergenic breeds, our dogs and cats. But that's something to really think about too, is does anyone in the house have allergies, and to take that into consideration. And then the expense. We really want to take inventory to determine whether or not we can responsibly afford to adopt and care for a pet long term. Next slide. So here's just a little breakdown of expenses. First time, one-time expenses. For example, this is just an example of, let's say we're adopting a new puppy. Some of the things that would, let's say we go to the local shelter and we get a puppy. Some of the expenses that we would be looking at, the adoption fee, and sometimes the adoption fee can actually include the spay and the neuter and the microchipping. So, but it just kind of gives you an idea of vaccines and the food. And we need to get the crate, we need to get the supplies, and we need to get pay for the medication, like a one-time deworming or heartworm treatment, those kinds of things. So we're looking at, let's say, on average, about $838 for that upfront one-time expense of adopting, example, this puppy. So that's just something just kind of keep in mind, right? Next slide. And the next slide kind of shows this in a similar way, but at the top, we've got the starting cost of adopting, again, let's say a puppy, a dog purchase, and the range, right? So that dog purchase can range from, let's say, as low as $250 to up to $3,000, right? If you're considering adopting a purebred dog, let's say, you're going to be, shelling out a little bit more money for that dog than, let's say, your rescue dog. But then again, other expenses like microchipping and spaying, neutering, getting all of the equipment and training that you're going to invest. So getting started with your dog, let's say you're looking at between about $1,350 to $5,400 just to get started, right? And that's important, I think, to keep in mind, because sometimes, especially if we haven't owned a pet, or if we've never owned a pet, we may not know exactly how much we're going to be needing to invest in that. So this is kind of helpful to kind of keep in the back of your mind. And then the lower part of that slide is just showing you each year what you might be spending on, again, let's say this dog. So food, right? We talked about the expense of food and those treats, and then our flea and tick and heartworm medication, then our accessories and the vaccines and the vet bills and the registration fees. I'm taking my puppies to the pool this Saturday in Reston. We have what they call doggy days, or dog paddle days. And so at the end of the summer, they open up the pools for the puppies to enjoy. So I'm taking the puppies to the pool. So I had to register them for that. Not expensive, but again, they're little things that kind of add up after a while. And then they have a one illness related vet visit here on average of $150. Well, if you all are used to visiting the vets, that can really shoot up there. $150 is basically what you're just paying to see the vet in the office, right? And then add on top of that. So, and then if your pet is diagnosed with a chronic disease, right, diabetes or Cushing's or Addison's, those vet bills can add up as well. So we want to take that into consideration. And then at the bottom of the slide, they've got some other extras, right? Optional extras like daycare, right? Daycare is expensive. I don't have any children, so I'm not used to daycare expensive for kids, but pets, my goodness, daycare is expensive. So, but they're so worth it, right? So we've got daycare expenses, insurance, if you insure your pets, holiday care. So if you go out of town and let's say you have a pet sitter come to walk or, take care of your kitty cat, those expenses. And then grooming. I don't do grooming with my pets, but I have friends that do, and that can get expensive as well. So we really want to kind of keep these things in mind. Next slide. So yeah, this is where I just want to really plug these animal shelters and rescue groups, right? If you're considering adopting a pet, check them out. They're the place to go. And you can look locally. And something that you can do is actually just, if you just want to start by searching on national websites and just Googling, the national websites will often then take you to the local shelter. So for example, a national website maybe you've heard of is petfinder.com. That's where I found one of these guys, and then a previous dog that I adopted in New Jersey. I found initially on petfinder.com, and they sent me to my local shelter, and then I worked with the local shelter to adopt my pet. So you can start broad with the national websites, and then they'll take you to the local shelters. And then, when you visit in person, you're going to want to see, of course, whether or not you're a match for the pet. And then if you have a pet, like in my case, I had a pet, so I brought my puppy in to visit my prospective puppy to make sure that they were a good fit, right? So you want to make sure it works all around. And most rescues, I can say Fairfax County shelter, animal shelter is just amazing, and they just did such a wonderful job and this whole process that I went through recently with my adoption there. But often shelters will let you know, look, if it doesn't work out, and sometimes it doesn't, when you take the pet home, things for whatever reason, and a whole host of different reasons, it may not work out, but most shelters will just say, hey, it's okay. If you need to bring the pet back, not a problem, and just go ahead and do that, because they understand it's not always a good fit. So shelters are just wonderful in that respect. And yeah, like I said, it may not work out and you may want to try again, and don't be discouraged. Just keep looking. Maybe try a different shelter, or you may decide that you want to adopt a purebred. And shelters are also, I think, a good resource for providing um, um, contact information for responsible breeders. So shelters are just wonderful. I can't speak highly enough for our shelters and all the hard work that they do. Next slide. Yeah, I just did want to add this as well as I really strongly discourage adoption from pet stores and online sellers and flea markets, because there's a good chance that those pets are actually coming from puppy mills, right? So puppy mills are these factory style breeding facilities that put the profit above the welfare of the dogs. Not always. Pet stores aren't always affiliated with puppy mills, but often they are. And so as long as we continue to support these operations, the puppy mills are going to continue. So I just did want to add that as a kind of a disclaimer there. Next slide. These are my references. So like I said, the first one is from Michigan State and has some beautiful, wonderful information on the human-animal bond throughout time. And then the second resource that I used was from the Humane Society. Again, wonderful resources and lots of information. I just touched on a few things here, but lots of really great information there for you to use if it's something that you're considering. Next slide. Yeah, so now it's time to share. I was just going to share a little bit about my puppies, and then I'm going to then go grab them. But I just wanted, before they start acting up here, I just wanted to share just kind of briefly. So this is my puppy, Ami. Ami is a little over 2. This is her in the field. I just took this the other day with her little deflated ball. She preferred the deflated balls over the regular inflated balls. And Ami is just beautiful. I think I had her on one of these, one of our Connection Corners meetings before, soon after I adopted her. And I had expressed an interest at that time in doing something with her, hoping to be able to do something with her in the emotional support area. I wasn't sure what exactly, but I just hoped that I would be able to use her in that, utilize her in that respect. And I'm still thinking of doing that. We've had a little bit of a detour because I adopted a second puppy, but interestingly enough, she's been an amazing emotional support for the new puppy. So I wasn't even thinking about that because I wasn't thinking about adopting a second puppy, but she's been amazing for my second puppy. So Ami is from a local rescue. She's from a rescue in Maryland. So again, Pet Finder, and then they sent me to Maryland. I adopted her. Amazing rescue. They had a foster family that worked with Ami and did an amazing job. And so Ami has just been such a blessing and a huge emotional support for me as well. So the next slide is Asia. So Asia is my new puppy. So I just adopted Asia in it was earlier this year, I want to say in March of this year. And I have a little breakdown of Asia. I did her DNA, her ID breakdown with Embark. And so Ami, the first puppy is 50% lab and 50% cattle dog. So Asia is a whole lot of stuff. You can see her mask, her face. She's got American Bulldog. She's got about 34.4% American Bulldog. But then she's got some things I guessed, but I was way off with her. She's got English Shepherd. She's got Lab Retriever, which was not expecting that. She's got American Staffordshire, and then she's got Border Collie. Wasn't expecting that. So it's really fascinating if you can test your pet and to find out what breed they are and potentially what medical conditions or health conditions they may have. So Asia is almost 2, and she is actually she sustained a fair amount of abuse and neglect as a young puppy. And she's come a long way, and she looks beautiful now. She was very emaciated. She was in pretty bad shape when she was surrendered. Um, again, Fairfax County has done an incredible job with the work that they do, and she was surrendered by the owner, and that was something I just wanted to touch on briefly as well. Is that surrendering is an option. Sometimes owners are overwhelmed. They adopt the pet, and they think that they can afford it, or they think they have the time, they think they have the energy, but then they realize at some point that they don't. And I think that's what happened with the original owner of Assia. He just did not realize what an investment of time, money, and energy it was in adoption. So fortunately, he did surrender Assia, and she was taken to the shelter and rehabbed, and then I was able to find her and adopt her. And again, Ami has just been absolutely beautiful for her. And Assia has been a blessing for me as well. And then I just wanted to share one more picture. This is Abby. This is the dog. This is my friend's dog. She's actually passed away since,
No.
yeah, at this point. But Abby was such a blessing for my friend. And I just wanted to share just real quick what my friend shared about Abby. So she shared that that she adopted Abby when her daughter and her moved to the U.S. From South America in 2008. And Abby helped them cope with the pain of leaving their home and all that they knew and starting a new life here in the U.S. She said that Abby was a diva, but fiercely loyal during her 15 years with her. And so she just was so appreciative of having Abby in her life. And I just wanted to share that with you all. And that's it for my share here. I'm gonna go grab my puppies, and I'll just turn it back over to you all.
Thank you, Laura. I appreciate it. I did want to say quickly, not that I'm trying to plug it, but just so you know that this is very timely because the Fairfax County Animal Shelters are having their Clear the Shelter days, August 23rd through the 25th, and that means that the adoption fees would probably be waived. So just keep that in mind if you're interested. So any questions? I know Laura's going to go get her little fur babies and share them with us, but any questions that people would have?
I was just going to mention, because I saw a couple of these pets here, and I didn't know if we were going to, our animatronic pets, which I know that they also are very helpful with companionship, and we do help to adopt out pets to our clients, and we have volunteers who help to deliver them, and they're really to help with decreasing social isolation and increasing companionship and connectivity. And so I was pleased also to see, I think, Mary Lee, you also have an animatronic pet that you brought, and Jody, you have one I know I saw. So they're very, and it's interesting. I've been to outreach events where we've had them. Janine always has one, and I know others of us do as well. And the reactions of people when they see them, they often don't realize that they're not live pets, and so they really do. They're deep fakes, and they really do help to connect people as well to that kind of caring and compassion that Laura, you touched on, and kind of does the same things that a live pet would do with less cost and maintenance that those live pets require. So just wanted to touch on those as well, as they've been a part of our programming, and I know have meant a lot to others.
So Mary Lee, the pet that you had originally went to your husband, was that right? And he has since passed, and you have a dog, so that's great. Can you share some of how he impacted your husband? You're on mute, if you can unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now, Jeannie?
Yes.
I was a full-time caregiver for a couple of years, and even before that, Don was used to having a pet. He had dementia. And caregiving and a new pet really don't go together, live ones. There would not be time to take care of the pet properly and take care of him at the same time. And many times our daughter would come with her little puppy, and when he was in rehab, the man in the room with him just couldn't wait for Leanne to come with her puppy. And so at the time I was looking for this, I first called Jody and I said, "You got any puppies?" And she didn't have any. And Buster came from hospice, and I did have Don under hospice care. And, you know, with his decreased mental capacity, Buster lived on the back of the couch in the living room, so that when he would come to the living room, he could talk to Buster, and maybe Buster talked back to him. I never heard that, but he probably did. And just having the animal sitting there on the back of the couch next to the wall, I think the presence was what was really supporting Don. And, you know, occasionally he would recognize the dog and interact with it. But the support to him kind of helped me take care of him in a way that I couldn't do before. I'm going to stay off and I'm going to mute here.
Thank you.
Oh,
Would anyone else like to share about their pet? I didn't know Olive was from Lucky Dog, Tanya. I love Lucky Dog.
Yes. Oh, great. You know about that. Yes. I hope everyone can see. I put a photo of my dog in the chat, and she's going to be 1 on August 31st. And Laura, she actually looks similar to Asia. So she reminds me when you shared the photo of Asia. But she's just lots of different breeds. So we adopted her in December, and it's been wonderful. She's just been a wonderful addition. And before her, we had another rescue dog who passed, Teddy, and he passed last May 1st of last year. So we waited several months, and then we got her. And so she keeps things lively and interesting. She's in the backyard right now. I would try to get her, but I think it's going to take a bit. So.
And can you share how you got your previous dog?
Oh, that's really a story. So my husband and I, our daughters had been asking for a dog for a few years at that point, and we traveled a lot at that point, and we were like, well, I don't think it's going to work out. And one Christmas, we visited our family's log cabin, and when we arrived, my sister came out and said, check out what's underneath the Christmas tree on the porch. And there was this random dog that none of us knew how it had arrived at our porch underneath the tree. And the girls were like, "Oh, Santa finally brought us a dog." So it's pretty wild. We said, no, but we turned it into the animal rescue out in Rappahannock County. And I was calling every day. No one claimed it. And then once it was past the time of, no one claiming it, we actually went and adopted this beagle mix that had showed up at our log cabin. So, and we had him for almost 7 years, 6.5 years. So I was, and he's actually the one that made me a dog person. I wasn't really a big dog person, and now I just wish I could adopt them all. So he gets credit. Teddy gets credit for that. I don't want to monopolize, but I did want to say one more thing really quickly. Laura, you had mentioned about animals in war. And interestingly enough, I was in London in June, and I was moved to tears when we actually saw, there's actually a full, beautiful memorial It's big. I actually looked up the photos. I can try to share it in the chat, but it's two animals in war, and it's beautiful. It's got 3D animals coming through it and on it, and it's really moving that they actually did that. That they have an actual memorial to all the animals. I mean, they have so many different types of animals represented on it. So I was really touched by that. I thought that was impressive.
Oh, that's wonderful. And where did you say that was, Tanya?
In London. In London.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were doing a tour of the city, and I didn't even know about it. So.
Oh, that's beautiful. They commemorate the
Yes.
animals in service. Oh, I love that. I love that.
If it's not taking too much time, I also inherited the ACA furniture program from Don when he died. And so I have to keep answering the phone because it may be somebody that's needing furniture. It may be somebody who wants to donate furniture. So excuse me for having to do that. I do want to share that we had a drop-off at our back door when we lived up in Pennsylvania. And it was this white furry ball. And it turned out to be, oh, be quiet. It turned out to be a no.
Call from San Diego.
Anyway, it turned out to be a part West Highland Terrier, very smart dog, and
call from San
a
Diego,
nice
CA.
schnauzer in the neighborhood. And the vet always referred to this as a turkey-sized dog with chicken legs, because we always get trouble with the legs. But it arrived in a box, small box, big enough to handle Hush Puppy shoes. So that was Hush.
Oh.
And Hush arrived about 4 or 5 days after our adopted daughter arrived. And so they grew up together. They shared dog biscuits together. And Leanne used to think it was wonderful to feed Hush by dropping food off of the high chair. So that's another one of our dogs. That was one you did have to, make sure the dog got fed and all that kind of thing. That's the beauty in Buster. I don't have to feed Buster, and I don't have to feed Buster. And so I highly recommend a dog. I think it would be, if you're in a place where you have a small child and it's not appropriate to have a living, breathing dog or cat, I highly recommend these because I think they serve a tremendous purpose.
Thanks for sharing. That's great, Mary Lee. Candace, did I see you reaching down for your dog?
It's Cat. He's in sleeping mode, but I'm gonna get him.
So cute.
Oh, a tuxedo cat.
Oh,
Gorgeous.
how cute.
Oh,
So cute.
He was a little bit of a wild man for a year. Ow! After I first got him, climbing and jumping and scratching and oh Lord have mercy. But he's calmed down a lot and just he's my heart. Sometimes it takes a while until they kind of settle in, and I'm so glad that it worked out because I just enjoy the heck out of him and I love watching him sleep and just coming into the room when he's lying there. It kind of influences the whole mood to watch a cat in repose, and I love it. I take it as kind of a lesson in how to be.
I love that. I love that share. And I love all the shares. And it reminds me of just being with our clients and asking them if they've had pets. You know, even growing up as children, a lot of times they have these memories, these really fond memories, and they enjoy sharing that. So people share about their pets.
Olive.
Oh my gosh, look at us, Lucky. Oh, it's
Olive looks so well behaved. Not mischievous at all.
Don't be misled. But she's so cute, it helps. Yes.
Laura, did either of yours come in?
they did, and then they exited. Let me see if I can grab one.
I don't
So
know if you all can.
here's Asia. So yes, Tanya. Asia, you
Okay, I'll hold Olive again. Here's Olive.
did did you? Yeah.
They look a little alike,
Oh, that's
or
so
they look
cute.
alike, or am I dreaming?
Yeah, they look alike. It looks like.
Laura, we took our dog to the Dog Days of Summer thing last year at the I forget which water park. Oh, they're beautiful. And my dog loved it, like absolutely loved going in the water.
Oh, it's so much fun. They have such a ball out there. Isn't
Yeah,
it great?
yeah.
Are you in Reston as well?
I'm in Burke, but they used to do it at the Burke pools and they don't do it anymore. But I saw it was in Reston and we went out last year, and like every make and model of dog is out there, you know, like traverse, and they all got along, which was so beautiful. It was great.
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's amazing because you would think with all these dogs and different personalities, but they are there to have fun, and it's just it's
Mhm.
wonderful. Oh, I love it.
Eva, do you have a pet?
I do have two cats. I got them through during COVID, and one is a special needs cat, what they call a wobbly cat, and he definitely needs extra care. And it's not easy to find somebody to sit for him. But they are a delight, and I'm so thrilled to have them. Sorry I can't get to the camera. I had to download this new app, and it directs me back to settings, and I don't want to, disconnect. So can't show my face.
No problem. Thanks for sharing. We also have a cat who I can't get a hold of, and he's a tripod. His name, I can't remember his name. Isn't that horrible? Anyways, these are all my daughter's pets officially. Mozzie.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mozzie is a tripod, and he came through a special needs ministry rescue group as well. He actually came from the streets of Kuwait. A horse had stepped on his leg, and so they had to amputate it. But we had a chain linked fence, and then we put up a 6-foot wooden fence, and he still jumps over the fence to get out. And so we're very selective and when we let him out. But Mozzie is just, a cat. I've never been a cat person. This is our second cat in our lifetime. The first one, Diego, we affectionately called the cat from hell because he just was horrible. But until he got close to the end of his life and he like crawled under the deck and died on his own terms. But yeah, anyways, lots of animals.
This is Buttercup, the resident cat in Annandale, and we actually do have I have a bird which I will not turn on because it's very loud. But yeah, as we've alluded to, we've been, and Eva has been one of our deliverers. So Eva, if you want to share anything, that would be awesome. But we've had a lot of fun. I guess we've been delivering pets since January of 2022, specifically to older adults who don't have live pets at home and cannot take care of a live one. And we've been having volunteers deliver them and do a loneliness survey and then follow up several weeks later and do the same survey. But it's been really fun to hear stories of how much the animals mean to clients, how much they've bonded with them. Most recently, I learned that one of our orange cats was now has the new name of Garfield. And so Garfield has been a very great source of comfort. So it's just been tremendous to watch all this and be able to be a part of it. So
My clients have been delighted, and I still, after what is it, a year and a half or something, I still visit them every so often, and they're still as enthusiastic as at the beginning.
that's great. That's the plan. Oh.
And just curious, Jody, did you all have the opportunity to do like a follow-up survey, like a pre-post kind of?
We did. We we started with one instrument and then transitioned to a different one. We used the DeJong-Gerveld loneliness scale, which was like 4 intervals. So we did that for a little while. Then we realized that was not as realistic, just getting hold of people. So now we've been doing the UCLA loneliness scale that's only 2 questions and is done twice. And so, yeah, we've actually got quite a bit of data by now, and I've been able to demonstrate. Of course, we cannot determine like causality because it's not an experiment, but we have definitely gotten a lot of feedback saying that it's really made a difference for clients as well as the caregivers. So yeah, actually, we do have a report about that. So if anybody's interested, I would be happy to share that. So.
Well, thank you, everybody. We went a little bit over, but I think our fur babies are worth it. And I know I've certainly enjoyed hearing all the stories. I don't have one of my own, but I borrow my mom's corgi. So I really know what it's like to love one of these beautiful creatures. So thank you so much for coming and have a great evening.
Thank you.